Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Gaylord National Harbor Convention Center right outside Washington, D.C., where we're covering the Air Force Association's annual Air, Space, and Cyber Conference and Trade Show. Our coverage here is sponsored by L3 Technologies and Leonardo DRS, and we're positively honored to have with us Major General Mark Smith, who is the Chief Executive Officer and National Commander of the Civil Air Patrol. Sir, thanks very much for joining us.
Well, Vagos, thanks so much for the opportunity to talk with you this afternoon.
It's a treat. You know, you're part of a historic organization. It's the United States Air Force Auxiliary. You guys were founded in December 1, 1941, so before Pearl Harbor. And you guys have been engaged and involved throughout World War II, where citizen airmen were participating in whether they were anti-submarine patrols. Talk to us a little bit about the mission of the organization and what you guys bring to the nation and to the force every day.
Well, thank you. And really, it goes back to the 1st of December, 1941. It's an opportunity for citizens to serve their nation. And during those early dark days of World War I, individuals were very motivated to find some way to make a difference. And so during the war, they flew anti-submarine, they flew aerial tow-in targets, they flew courier, you name it. We just celebrated the 75th anniversary this last year, and this year the 75th anniversary of the cadet program. But if you fast forward to today, it's the same type of motivations that we see with our volunteers. These are individuals who are not interested in just self, but they're interested in what they can do to serve their communities, their states, and their nations as well. Primarily, our number one job as the auxiliary to the Air Force is to perform missions for them, non-combat types of missions from a cost-effective standpoint that we can do to help them to free up Air Force's resources for doing other types of priorities. And then as well as federal missions, state, local, and those types of things.
And what are some of those missions, for example, you free up? You guys, you know, in every natural disaster, you guys play a role in that. Talk to us about some of the missions that you guys perform that ease the burden domestically on the U.S. Air Force, but also from a state standpoint, from a Guard standpoint, and is also from an agency standpoint.
Well, you mentioned the natural disasters, so let me talk to that first, since everyone's minds have been on the hurricanes that we've had here lately. Hurricane Harvey. We had people volunteers from 44 states flying over 70 aircraft, Civil Air Patrol aircraft, who were performing aerial imaging for FEMA and for Texas and Louisiana. And over the course of these last few weeks, we've uploaded over 375,000 geotagged images for the use by the emergency folks so they know where they need to put their resources. And same type of thing is going on with Irma, and then we're keeping an eye out for what's coming next. Now, as far as what we do to help the Air Force, some of the types of missions, one of which is reflected on the poster behind us, to where we provide training for the air defenders, both in the Air National Guard and active duty, to where we fly low, slow aircraft that may penetrate airspace to where planes are not supposed to be. And we also provide the same type of training for the air defenders in the Army to include the individuals who deploy to the nation's capital to help keep the airspace safe there. And we also provide counter-drug. We provide border patrol types of missions for Homeland Security, as well as things like low-level route surveys, range surveys, those types of things for the Air Force. And something else that the Air Force is interested in is youth development. They take a look at what is happening with the next generation of folks coming up. And what we do is we help the Air Force to expose young individuals to STEM-related aerospace education types of materials. Through our cadet program, we have a tremendous character development, a tremendous youth development program to where they are learning moral character, core values that are going to help them regardless of what they're doing. They're learning self-confidence. They're learning about leadership, so that regardless whether they go in the Air Force or not, they're going to be amazing citizens for the U.S. And then, oh, by the way, they have a number of flying opportunities to where young people can realize different types of careers, with whether it's aviation or engineering or industry or whatever the case may be.
I think if you asked most Americans whether the CAP was conducting aggressor training, I don't think they would have believed you, but that's exactly what you guys are doing. And I think you do need faster airplanes than that. I think we should talk to the chief that you guys may need some jets and things like that.
I think there seems to be a market for F-35s right now, and perhaps we can help with that particular mission for the Air Force as well.
That would be neat. But let's talk a little bit about what the size of your force is, the equipment you guys have. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, now we have 560 aircraft. They're the propeller-driven aircraft like you see on the poster back here, and it's well suited for the types of missions that we do for the Air Force and other agencies as well, which is primarily aerial imaging, disaster response, to where we can be slow enough to take the quality of images that are needed to help the emergency services. And it's also well suited for us to fly the cadets, to help to teach them to fly.
And you have they're 172s, 152s.
Yeah. Cessna 172s, 182s, 206s are primarily the aircraft that we have, and there's a few other types within the fleet for special purposes, but I'd say 95% of our aircraft are those particular models.
And how many folks are in the force?
We have over 58,000 volunteers, both adults and youth, and it's across the nation. It's to include Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and to include overseas cadet squadrons at U.S. Air Force bases in Europe and in Asia as well.
A couple of years, what has the recruiting challenge been like? Are you guys, is there a steady flow of people who are joining? And how can folks get involved with the CAP?
Yeah. Well, the easy way for folks to get involved is to go to gocivilair.com, and there's a site to where they can put in their zip code and they can find local squadrons and visit those squadrons as well. As far as recruiting goes, it's always an area of emphasis. Nationwide, international-wide volunteerism has dropped off over the last few years. Our numbers have actually gone up, which indicates that people are interested in serving and making a difference in the types of services that we do for Civil Air Patrol. And the neat thing about CAP is it's one might think is the auxiliary to the Air Force. Well, we're all old military people or something like that, and that's not the case. We have folks from every walk of life. We have moms whose kids have joined as cadets, and they join as well, and they've gone on to serve as national commanders of Civil Air Patrol. We have scientists, we have engineers, we have pilots, we have military folks, but any and everybody, and there's such a variety of roles and missions within CAP. There's something for everybody, regardless of what their particular interests and motivations are when they come on board.
You guys have been in the game for 75 years, or have celebrated your 75, more than that, right? 76th anniversary, I guess, would be this year.
Yeah, coming up on 76.
Coming up on 76, and you look marvelous. But tell us a little bit about, what's the future of the CAP? As you look out 75 years, what do you see in terms of the missions that you guys will be performing then?
Good question. If we take from day one and come to the 75, 76 year point, some of the things that are consistent is service to community, state, and nation. And as the Air Force's auxiliary, performing missions for them that are germane for them at the time. Some of the missions have remained the same. Some are different. We don't do anti-submarine patrols anymore, but we do continue to perform disaster response, search and rescue, and take care of youth development and reach into the communities for helping teachers and students with STEM-related types of topics. So if we go look forward another 75 years, the platforms are going to be a little bit different. The technology that's in those aircraft are going to be different, but the basics of what we're doing in service to community, state, and nation are going to be the same, not only in what we're doing for the Air Force, but for right down to the local community as well. And underline that as a spirit of service, to where we're giving folks the opportunities, people who are motivated to try to make a difference, and instilling that type of attitude in the youth of America as well.
And one last question. You are headquartered at Maxwell Air Force Base, intellectual home of the United States Air Force.
Yes,
how do you liaise, or how do you cooperate with folks there in terms of having a crossplay of ideas, coordinating with them, and discussing, and mapping the future?
We have a command team that's geographically diverse, and we have individuals, leaders from all the different states, 52 wings, which includes the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. And we have the staff that's primarily there at national headquarters. And so we use, in this day and age of technology, we use web-based internet types of services by which we can interact on a frequent basis. And that communication is important, but you can't get away from the importance of interpersonal, face-to-face type of dynamics. So both myself and my command team, it's incumbent on us to get out to the field and spend time with our folks and hear how they're doing and let them talk to us about the great ideas that they have.
General Smith, thanks very much, and happy upcoming birthday for you and the force.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.